With SummerSlam now behind us, the calendar changing to September, and Extreme Rules scheduled for September 26th, it is time to hear from the listeners on their rants, their questions, their comments. Let's get it all started right now.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, let's do this. Let's get to the mailbag. Let's get to your thoughts, your questions, your rants. Whatever it is, it's always fun. And I always tell you this, but it's true. This really is one of my favorites, if not the favorite show I do every week. And I know that the weekend review is really a blast because I bring on a co-host and we talk about everything during the week, and that is fun. But this is certainly in the discussion for one of my favorite shows that I do because I get to hear from you and interact with you, albeit from a distance, in the best way that I can think of on a weekly basis. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. And we get to do this every week. And if you want to join us and you want your voice on the air, you want to know how to get in touch with us and how to be a part of the mailbag, it's super simple. Hit us up an email at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. That will be the place you go to submit your questions for the mailbag. And if you want to call in and send us a voicemail, you can do that at 518-952-0247. You can also hit us up on Twitter at wrestling_audio and on Instagram at WWE_podcast. Or, the cool kids are doing, I'm on TikTok and I'm trying to create as many videos as I can there and just kind of create a following. And it's a hell of a platform. It really is. So follow me there at the WWE Podcast. You'll find me. So let's move into the very first message. And it wouldn't be the mailbag. It wouldn't be an official mailbag show without Randy, the patron, opening it up. So, Randy, let's get to your message. And he says, accurately, hey, Matt, Randy, the patron here. So I think the Rhea and Shayna match was a lead way into a feud with them, while also showing her and Naya falling apart. I think they're building up Naya as a dominant heel, making Shayna be the babyface where she finally gets the win against Naya. That can eventually lead her into the title picture. Now, first point taken here. I hope that no matter what the situation is, what their plan is, it just results in, and the end game is to get Shayna Baszler in a singles role. Period. End of subject. Shayna Baszler needs to get the hell out of a tag team. I don't care whether she's a babyface or a heel. I think Shayna Baszler is much better as a heel, but I'm okay with her being a babyface if the end result in the end game is her being in a singles role. I mean, I don't care how she gets out. She just needs to get out. So that will be a good thing. And I hope that that's the case with Rhea and Shayna leading to a program. I really, really do. Because as I said in my Raw review last night, that look, this is a program that feels like it should be bigger than it is. And sadly, it feels second rate because of how they've positioned Shayna Baszler. And the answer is not very well. So as far as dominant heel for Naya, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Naya is never a good babyface. Ever. Never was. And I went in depth on the whole shoot fight that her and Charlotte had on Raw. That had a lot of real elements to it. And it really broke that down for about 20 minutes, I believe, on the show. And I really recommend you go check that out from last night if you haven't already. So I won't get into that here. But okay, moving on. Now Charlotte and Naya was a good match. And yes, it was hard hitting, where I think it was supposed to be like that. I do believe there were some real shots in there. I agree. What do you think about a Rhea and Shayna feud? I think that would be awesome, but that's just me. Well, I believe I answered that. I would be all for it. I just wish that they had positioned Shayna in a more prominent position, like that they had done some background work. They had done some foundational work on especially repairing her from being in a tag team that has seen her on a weekly basis, that sees her on a weekly basis getting pinned or submitted. I mean, it's not a good look and not a way to build a program that should feel like it's bigger than it actually is, because especially of where Shayna feels like she is. I mean, her character has been damaged severely by being in a tag team with Naya. And at the same time, we also got them, meaning Shayna and Nia Jax, being able to elevate the women's tag team belts. I mean, so there is that. I do give them credit for that. That's about the only good thing that came of it. Okay, so I think you have AJ Styles do a singles run with Omos, just like Shawn and Nash, basically. I think it's a perfect way to have both. I can see Styles going after the Intercontinental or U.S. title eventually. What do you think? I think we do eventually get Omos versus AJ Styles, with AJ Styles playing the babyface. I definitely think that's going to happen. But I don't think WWE will do that until they feel Omos is ready to go into a singles role and doesn't need the coaching on a weekly basis, or really the protection or safety net of AJ Styles in a tag team, where the spotlight just isn't on Omos, that he has AJ Styles to lean on and do most of the match for him. Now, this past week, Omos was in a singles match with Johnny Nitro. Good God. John Morrison. And John Morrison, who you would think would be able to sell for anybody, make anybody look good, kind of a Dolph Ziggler type. Smart move by WWE. Unfortunately, it still didn't pan out, as there was a lot of botches on their end, and most of them lie in the lap of Omos, who did not do a very good job. But again, he's still green, and he's a really big dude. The mechanics of a guy that size are different than you and I, a normal sized human being. So the timing is different. The selling is different. I think it's going to take a little more time for AJ and Omos to split, because I don't think they feel Omos is ready for it, and they don't want to sacrifice the work that they've done to build Omos just to get AJ Styles out of that tag team. I would argue the opposite, though. I would say AJ Styles, in a way like Shayna Baszler, is trapped in a team when their skills are best utilized in a singles role. So I would like to see AJ Styles in a, like you say, even a mid to upper card championship, like the United States or Intercontinental Championship, and perhaps the draft is a way to split them up, unless they implement the rule that when you draft one person of a team, both have to come. I mean, who knows? They flip flop the rules every year. So. All right. Last, I think the R-Truth and all of them is still hilarious to me. Of course, I like the title, where I know that you don't, because you knock the comedy out with that alone. Well, again, if you enjoy the 24/7 title, then more power to you. I'm not going to convince anybody to not like it. If you like it, you like it. Wonderful. I have no problem with anybody. I'm not going to try to convince anybody that they're wrong on liking a certain part of the product. I will make my case strongly as to why I feel my way, but that doesn't mean anybody has to come along with me. Certainly not. And if you find it hilarious, then awesome. I mean, that means you enjoy more of Raw, presumably, and you're enjoying a segment that most people would view, and probably production views, as a get me up segment and kind of a comedy relief segment. So, cool. I don't think they're going to abolish the 24/7 title, because Vince always feels like he has to have some comedic relief for whatever reason. At least a comedic attempt relief. And I don't think that abolishing the title would do them any favors if they have a shoe-in every week, so that they don't have to come up with anything, that it's already built into the fabric of the show, that you have a championship that doesn't really mean anything, and they have these ridiculous scenarios. So whatever, man. I mean, Randy, if you love it, cool. I mean, that's great. Seriously. So, all right. Anyway, that's it this week. Yeah, and better make sure I'm the first every time. Just kidding, of course. Later, Randy. Well, Randy, you got your wish this week. You certainly did, no doubt. All right, let's move on here, and let's see. Let's go back. I'm gonna make sure I get it. Let's go to I believe this is someone new. So let's get to it. It is Maddie B from Cocoa Beach. Wow. Cool stuff. So I like your name, by the way. It's a nice name. I know the WWE draft is coming soon and wanted to find out what you thought about these moves. Raw's top 3 draft picks: Seth, Big E, Sami Zayn. I don't. Okay. I have no problem with that. Seth Rollins absolutely should I think he should move, but here's the thing, and this is going to get so convoluted, and there's so many different moving pieces that it's hard to make a suggestion without also domino affecting 3 other people, right? And then having those people domino affect. It's such a very difficult thing to do. And the reason I say it's difficult, even for Seth Rollins, for your pick on Seth to be one of the very first pick for Raw, assuming they're doing it that style, maybe they mix it up and do a lottery, who knows. But Seth Rollins, I like the pick, but I don't know if Seth Rollins needs a change of a brand. I think Seth has found a nice home on SmackDown. I really, really do. And having him on a different brand from Roman, I want them on the same brand. I want Roman and Seth on the same brand because eventually they're going to cross paths. And they are 2 opponents that have yet to really face off in their current iteration of their characters. It feels like that they haven't been in a program together for a while, even though we've seen them in many, many, many matches in the past. It was all Shield related. And now, amazingly, because they've changed their characters so much and so well, that it feels like they haven't met, doesn't it? It's crazy, even though they have many times. And I think that having Seth and Roman on the same show would, I think, pay dividends for both characters, both guys that are eventually going to lock horns. So that would mean Seth Rollins probably stays on SmackDown because I truly believe Roman is staying on SmackDown. So I like your pick. I do, Matt, but my concern is that Roman and Seth would be on different brands, and I want them on the same brand. And I don't think Roman is going anywhere because he has made and found a beautiful home on SmackDown. I want him nowhere near Monday Night Raw. He is SmackDown right now. So as far as Big E goes, I'm gonna probably piss off a lot of people. I am not a Big E fan right now. I respect his body of work. I respect what he's accomplished. That's the body of work. I respect the guy himself for everything he's done for his character, for the business, for New Day, for generating a lot of money for merchandise, all that. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. The lack of evolution of Big E is ultimately going to be his death wish, right? It's kiss of death, rather. And I don't think Big E is that big of a star right now that you draft him number 2. I don't. I don't. So I don't disagree with you, but the problem is they have not evolved his character to a place that I feel he's a main eventer yet. They haven't. He's the same New Day gyrating goofball that has an inside joke every other sentence. It's a tired act. And if you're not going to evolve yourself when you're on your own run without the New Day, then you're hamstringing yourself. So my long answer short, I would not make Big E in my top 3. I wouldn't mind if he's on my roster, but I wouldn't want him in my top 3. Sami Zayn, I love Sami Zayn. I really do. I think he's one of the most underutilized talents on the roster. So I agree with your number 3. I really do. I do. I like your number 3. I think Sami Zayn is a guy that doesn't get a fair shake at times. And I loved what he's done with his paranoia, with his whole conspiracy theory. Everyone's against me. The documentary that I hope eventually does actually come out. That whole thing is brilliant. Now, on the microphone, he's really good. In the ring, he's really good. So I agree with that. I'm a massive Seth Rollins fan, and I would love to see him over to Raw and getting back into the WWE Championship picture of having feuds with someone like Riddle or Damian Priest. I think Big E would be a great get for Raw, but not anywhere near New Day programs. And also, it'd be really cool to see Big E versus Bobby Lashley. Sami Zayn would be a really entertaining guy to help fill the long 3 hours of Raw, given he hasn't been used on SmackDown lately. Well, Sami Zayn was used on SmackDown this past week. He got a victory. I can't remember over who, but Kevin Owens was on commentary. So he was utilized. But before that, yeah, he kind of just disappeared into thin air. Certainly kind of like Liv Morgan disappeared into thin air. Alexa Bliss this past week on Raw was nowhere to be found. I mean, people just disappear for no reason at times. And so I get it. I get it, Matt. I think you've got solid picks here, but I think that I like your rivalries, right? Like I like Big E versus Bobby Lashley. I think that's a really cool program, but doesn't that mean that Bobby could potentially come over to SmackDown, right? Maybe they swap WWE champion and Universal champion and from Raw to SmackDown. But again, that would contradict my need to have Roman Reigns on SmackDown. So this is where it gets really difficult. I like Big E and Bobby. I do. I love it. Both really big guys. It'd be a hell of a visual, wouldn't it? But I don't know how you get I don't know how you get Lashley on the same roster as Seth if Seth needs to stay with Roman and Roman's on SmackDown. You see, I would not want to be in these production meetings. It's got to be a pain in the neck. I'll be honest, to come up with all these rules and all these selections, if you will. Okay, here are your SmackDown top 3 draft picks: Drew McIntyre, AJ, Ricochet, or John Morrison. Okay, I completely agree with your top 2. This I have zero issue with. Drew needs a change of an environment. He needs to get the hell off of Monday Night Raw and not be on the same show as Bobby Lashley. He needs to get away. Okay. He needs fresh opponents badly. AJ Styles. Yes, I agree. If he's a single star at that time, does need a new environment. Having him back on SmackDown as a face that runs the place, being a WWE, being a babyface, and maybe chasing Roman Reigns would be fun. That'd be fun. And Drew McIntyre and Roman, they met once at Survivor Series last year in a nothing throwaway match that was just infuriating that they did that. But I think Drew and Roman is a hell of a main event for any pay-per-view, including WrestleMania, that they need to visit. So as Ricochet and John Morrison, I would have them there. I don't know if I'd make them my number 3, but they'd be in my top 5, top 10, definitely. I have no problem with that either. Definitely not. I'm definitely in line. I'm in line for sure with your picks to SmackDown. So you explain this by saying a Drew versus Roman program would be really fun to see. I also wouldn't mind seeing AJ Styles in the Universal title picture. I swear, I did not read those sentences before I came up with my analysis. I really didn't. I stopped my brain right at before I read that. So anyway, they would both be fresh faces to see on SmackDown again. Ricochet and John Morrison can add a lot of entertainment to the Intercontinental Championship, especially if it gets Johnny Drip Drip away from your favorite, The Miz. What do you think of these roster swaps? Thanks for taking my email, Matty B from Cocoa Beach. Well, first of all, enjoy Cocoa Beach. I hate you because you are in a very nice place. I got to say, it's not fair, but I agree. I just told you. I mean, I agree with your SmackDown for sure. I have concerns with Seth on Raw if Roman's not there, and yeah. So good stuff. Good stuff. We're gonna do a lot more of this, I'm sure, as the weeks roll on and we get closer to this draft that we still are looking for an official date, but here it's in October, so next month. All right, let's continue. Go to, Dennis O'Brien writes in, says, "Hi, Matt. I hope you're well. I have been watching AEW since it started, and it is becoming by far the better company than WWE. I've been watching WWF/WWE since I was a little kid, which is why I'm so frustrated with the company, because like you and the rest of the gang in your podcast, I'm a very passionate wrestling fan. So I apologize for my rant recently if you thought I was a bit overboard. I think Adam Cole's contract is up, and I would think he would be better on AEW because he would just get buried on the so-called main roster. Okay, let me pause. I will say that the Adam Cole situation, if I was Adam Cole, I would want to get the hell out of WWE. Why? And this really goes for anybody on the NXT roster that is even mildly successful. I would not want to be called up at all. Why? There is a serious lack of mismanagement, especially on Monday Night Raw. I mean, like Monday Night Raw is a mess. It's a mess generally speaking, not everything, but as a general rule of thumb, it's a mess creatively. Shows are rewritten. I mean, we saw the example this past week of just the product they put out there that was just so confusing. And I would not want to be called up. Tommaso Ciampa on NXT has been very vocal, saying he would rather quit the company just rather than having to go up to the main roster. It tells you everything you need to know about what the talent view the main roster as. It's a place that your character goes to die, and it shouldn't be. It should be something that the NXT performers are excited about, and that it's something that can take your career to the next level. And it's doing the exact opposite for a lot of NXT call-ups. A lot. So I would agree with that. And if I was Adam Cole, I would get the hell out of WWE, and I would be making some phone calls to Tony Khan for sure over in AEW and see if they got an extra spot. So So, okay. And by the way, one thing on NXT, I'm making a TikTok video about this later, about NXT and the changes, massive changes coming to NXT. You saw the quick logo vignette on, I don't know if it was Smackdown or Raw. Basically, it's indicating change is coming, and it's going to be head up by Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. Good God. If NXT, the brand that Vince looked at as the bastard child, is going to be head up by the guy that is responsible for a lot of the F-ups on the main roster, man, this is not looking good for NXT. Just when you think Vince is starting to bow out, or perhaps take a step back, step aside, let Triple H or whoever start to take more and more responsibility, oh no, the exact opposite is happening. So if you don't like Vince McMahon and his style of presentation of what professional wrestling is, which he wouldn't even say is professional wrestling, he would just say it's entertainment, well, then you're going to have to get used to it even more down the line with him taking over NXT. At least that is the report from Brian Alvarez over on Wrestling Observer. So give credit where credit's due. We'll see if that happens. Okay. Walter versus Draganov was brutal, and I mean that as a compliment. Now that Walter is no longer UK NXT champion, hopefully he would come to America to perform on Raw. They need a performer like him, but he has said he has no interest in crossing the pond. Yes, I believe I mentioned that last week. Walter, that's the only thing I really know about the possibility of Walter coming to the US version of NXT, is that he has no interest in coming over here. Yeah, he doesn't. And why would he? I mean, with how they're managing a lot of the staff, or rather the performers over here, I wouldn't want to be over here either. I would just stay put and be a success where I'm at. It's just, I don't know. Things are a little tough right now on NXT and WWE as a whole. All right, let's go here. Bevan. Whoa. All right. I think you also sent a voicemail in, so we'll get to yours later on. But let's get to Bevan. And he says, "Hi, Matt. Bevan here. Hope all is well. I have 2 questions this week, and I find that it is actually easier to email than call, so that hopefully I can explain my questions better. With Becky's return, I too was surprised on how it went about, and that she was made champion instantly. My question is, how much of a say would she as a person have had in this storyline being played out? Would it merely have been creative saying, Becky, this is what's happening at SummerSlam, go and do it? Or would she have had input in the way it played out? I'm a huge fan of hers, so I'm glad she's back, but I'm just wondering whether Becky or any other wrestler getting any say in storylines. My gut feeling is that they get told what to do." All right. So I actually have heard that Becky wanted to do this. This was her idea. I've heard that on several different websites. Of course, take that with a grain of salt. However, when you look at the information coming out of guys and gals that leave the company and they do podcasts and interviews subsequent to their departure from the WWE, you get more of an insight into what the culture is there. You get an insight into how much input they had, what was shot down, what it's like to work there. And everything I've heard is that, sure, you can You can have input on your creative. You can bring things up the chain, but a lot of it gets shot down. A lot of it gets just pushed to the side for whatever upper management and Vince McMahon view your character as. Now, again, that's not to say you can't have input, but the weight that your input has varies from performer to performer. And you know what? In some respects, I get that. The input I get, if I was running the company, if I got input from somebody that was brand new, I'd listen to it. So I'd listen to it and mull it over in my head for, however long I wanted to, and at least take it under advisement. But if I didn't think it was a good idea, I would, I probably would. I just go, no, we're doing what I want to do. That said, when you have somebody that has the tenure of a Becky Lynch, or somebody that, again, is of a higher tenure, that is a more established star, they probably have more of a sway, more of a say and sway in what they want to do with their character, if they want to bring up anything at all, because they have obviously more respect. They've earned their stripes. They paid their dues, however you want to phrase it. So I think, obviously, just as anywhere, you work anywhere, the longer you're there, I believe, generally speaking, your opinion matters more because you've had more experience. You've grinded there. You've put your time in, and so it should. That said, with all that said, I don't believe a lot of talent are speaking up, even those that are established stars. I don't. Why? Simple. Future endeavored. That's why. I think there is a massive fear, no matter who you are, that nobody's safe. And if you piss off the wrong person with the wrong idea, or you bring an idea and they take it and then it fails, you're gone. So I think a lot of the talent, whether it's what they want to say in a promo, what kind of character story arc they want to tell, anything creative wise, I think there's a lot of hesitation among the talent to say anything at all because of the fear of losing their jobs. And that's a terrible environment to work in, because you are stifling creativity, and it's a stressful environment. It's just not a fun place to work. I would not want anything to do with WWE if I would not want to work there. Point blank. I like being able to sit here, criticize. They can't do jack. Being able to praise them when it's deserved, and I praise them when it's deserved. Absolutely. But to be able to do this in a third party and just say whatever the hell I want and have zero consequences, that's the freedom I'd want. And that's not the freedom I'd get if I was in WWE. I can tell you that right now. And that's why you see a lot of those state-run radios, I call them, like a Corey Graves or a Booker T, that have their own podcast, that whatever they say about WWE is a little bit skewed towards the positive. Why? Because that's their current employer. So you're not going to get 100% the truth, I think, a lot of times from those individuals, because they're currently employed. So long answer. Sorry about that. But do I think that she had anything to say? Again, I do think that Becky Lynch did have a say. That's what I've heard. So I think you may have touched on this a while back, but the way Bianca Belair's character is, I think she would be more suited to being a heel. Firstly, because of the EST gimmick. Fastest, strongest, quickest. She could swap that for fiercest, meanest, nastiest, cruelest, and continue to say, girl, which I find condescending anyways. It would be interesting to see her as a heel. Only thing is that with Becky being a heel and there being a shortage of babyfaces on SmackDown, I don't think the time would be right for that to happen now, but maybe after the draft. That's all I have for this week. Take care. And you sent this from your iPhone. Wow. It's a lot of texting on your iPhone, buddy. It's a lot to write with your fingers on a little screen. So I have been an anti-proponent for Becky Lynch being a heel right now. I've said this many times, that Becky Lynch has no business being a heel right now, and that it feels like they did it just to swerve us to make the biggest splash and have the most conversation going on, the most controversy. I think that's the idea, rather than predictably coming back as a babyface, which I think is what she felt would be a little predictable, a little boring. It wouldn't make the biggest splash if Becky was the one that was the mastermind behind this. That's the assumption. However, I don't think this is a good idea, and I've said this before, because you are really squandering all the excitement and money that people would pour into this character, buying their merchandise, maybe increasing television ratings and live attendance and all that kind of thing, which I do think Becky has at least a small impact on. She's a big star. For what? Just to get people talking about, wait a minute, she's a heel? What? And again, for what? To have Bianca try to make her the biggest babyface of all time by sacrificing the excitement of the fans of having Becky back? Like, this doesn't make sense. I would have brought her back as a babyface, kept her as a babyface for 3 months. Once the nostalgia wears off and people kind of are like, okay, Becky's back and they're used to her, then turn her heel. At least you've capitalized on some of that money that's just on the table that they're just letting sit there because they apparently are going all in on Bianca Belair here. But you're right. Bianca Belair could easily be a heel. Easily. You said it. I've said it. EST. There's nothing more arrogant than calling yourself the EST. Nothing. That's worse than the queen or an empress or a princess or whatever other noun you want to use. There's nothing more arrogant than that. So yeah, she could easily switch to a heel. I actually think she's done incredibly well as a babyface, considering her gimmick is extremely heelish, but she's somehow made it endearing, which is really brilliant. But yeah, probably after the draft. Things are going to be completely tossed up after the draft, whenever that is. So thank you, Bevan, and we will talk soon. All right, let's see here. Two more emails, and then we're going to get to our voicemails. Okay. Owen South. Owen writes in, did you miss me? Forget Brock, Becky, and even CM Punk. Me returning and saving the mailbag should be in every news article and YouTube video surrounding professional wrestling. So then, where has your resident heel been the last 6 weeks? Yeah, I know. I have to say, it's been a little babyface heavy on the mailbag, so we do need a heel. Thank you, Owen, for returning. Can I tell you a story? No, I'm not going to sit down and cross my legs like a child because I'm sophisticated and take my role very seriously, unlike other people in the industry. Anyway, back to my story. Weeks ago, I was watching Smackdown and I saw poor Baron Corbin stumble out to the ring and set up a GoFundMe page. So unlike all of you, I spent all I had to see the great man be able to afford his Bentley, get his Bentley back, because unlike everybody else, I appreciate men like Baron. Anyway, I slightly messed up my calculations, and the next thing I know, I'm sleeping in a homeless shelter where I'm pretty sure some of your listeners. It was a disgrace to my legacy and previous lifestyle. Anyway, the other day I received a check for $600,000 from the great one, Baron Corbin, with a letter saying thank you for trying to help. Now, if everyone else who watches wrestling could have donated maybe even $5,000 each, it wasn't a lot he was asking for, then I wouldn't have ever been in the shelter. So yes, I'm back. And that doesn't mean I will be positive. If anything, I will be more critical and negative because people don't deserve happiness. If anything, it will be a privilege for them to hear my words roll out of Matt's mouth. Finally. Oh, Lord. Finally, if I hear anyone disrespect The Miz ever again, I swear fists are going to get thrown. The man is the most talented on or off the mic in this whole industry, and it is an honor for us to be able to watch him through our screens. I personally think WWE should be changed to MWE for Miz's Wrestling Entertainment, and this podcast should be changed to the official Miz TV podcast. But hey, bright ideas don't always comprehend with dumb people. I'll see you all next week. Goodbye for now, your resident heel, Owen. Owen, I have to say, I didn't think that the entire email would be a heel promo. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop and you get to some actual wrestling questions. And unfortunately, you give us a sad story about, sending a $600,000 check to Baron Corbin and blaming it on us that we should have donated so you didn't have to go to the shelter. Yeah, our bad, man. I guess since we're just such dumb people that we're not the ones giving Baron Corbin $600,000 checks. Some people do. So that had to have been. I mean, that was the longest heel email that we've ever received. So good stuff, Owen. Oh Lord, good stuff. So yeah, I hope we didn't disrespect all the listeners here. Of course, Owen's playing his part. So I need somebody to step up as the babyface here. I need somebody. There's got to be somebody out there to step up to Owen here and challenge this heel that needs to be taken down. So, alrighty. Thanks, Owen, and looking forward to hear from you next week. Okay, let's get to our final email, and then we'll jump into voicemails. Hey, this is from Josh Sanders, and he writes in, "Hey, thought of a quick question. Hope I make it in time for this week's episode." Yes, you did. But if not, question works for next week too. Which NXT star deserves to be called up off the top of your head? For me, it's Tommaso Ciampa. I have grown to be a good fan of his and would love to seeing him become something like a CM Punk 2.0. If he gets on Raw or SmackDown, no one will survive. Thanks for the show. Well, Josh, I went over this funnily enough, just a few minutes ago, that Tommaso Ciampa has zero interest in coming to the main roster. Zero. And I don't blame him. Well, I agree that he would be one of my call-ups. That would be in a world where the NXT stars aren't fearful that going up to the main roster is actually a death sentence for their character. And I believe that's the belief. And there's proof of that. I mean, like Nikki Cross, lost in the sauce. Right? I mean, look what they did with Apollo Crews for how many years. He was one of the first to come up from NXT. There's not a great history of NXT stars coming up and making it huge. There really isn't. And it's a little scary. So I agree with Tommaso Ciampa that I would be hesitant as well. But he would be my first pick. If Adam Cole was still there or is still there or whatever's happening, I would have Adam Cole be right there. Certainly. Finn Balor would have been my pick, but he's already back. I love Finn Balor's new character and attitude, by the way. I shouldn't say new character. Evolved attitude, same character. I'm really a big fan of Finn Balor right now. I love that he's got this newfound confidence. He's not the smiling guy that just, gets slapped on one side of his cheek and tells the guy to slap him on the other. He's actually got a pair of grapefruits, and I like it. So, Josh, thank you for the question. Please write it next week. Looking forward to it. Okay, it is that time to get to our voicemails, and you guys stop hearing me. I'm tired of talking. You're tired of hearing from me. So let's get to our very first voicemail. I believe this is, Kyle from Baltimore. So let's see what Kyle from Baltimore has to say.
It's Kyle from Baltimore. Real quick about my thing about Becky Lynch. I kind of misword my mindset about the whole situation. Yes, I agree that the match should have been longer between Becky and Bianca, but once Becky's music hit, I knew Bianca was going to lose the championship. Well, I kind of knew she was going to walk out not champion, whether it would have been to Becky or to Sasha. Becky or Sasha are my two favorites. I'll talk about Sasha a lot, but Becky is equally like Sasha, where I love Becky as well. And so, again, making this call hours before SmackDown, so who knows what if he turned Becky heel, that'd be a big mistake. But I do love the fact that Becky is a champion. But she should have gone to Raw. The fact that she's now on SmackDown tells me that WWE really cares about SmackDown even more than Raw, to the point where I don't know why I should be watching Raw at this point. I still will, because I'm just the second nature. But because everybody I like is on SmackDown. Rollins, Becky, Roman Reigns, and Tony Storm, all of them are on SmackDown. So, and Tony Storm and Becky Lynch, you're going to want to see, by the way. But yeah, I love that Becky's champion. I feel sorry for Bianca, I really do. But it's Becky Lynch, and I enjoy her. So we'll see how she does as champion. Hopefully she stays a babyface and not a heel. But that's why I wanted to clarify the whole thing from my last call. So That was it. Thanks for my call. Bye.
Hey, Kyle, good to hear from you, and thank you. So, yeah, I mean, look, Bianca and Becky should have had a longer match. Fans were annoyed about that, and rightfully so. But if that was the point, that fans are like, what the hell? Just so that it establishes Becky as a heel. Again, I am anti-Becky as a heel right now. What the hell are they doing? Like, you have one of the hottest returns, most anticipated returns in modern history. Well, at least when I say modern history, at least the last few years. Maybe being a little exaggerating, but it feels a lot like when Stone Cold wanted to turn heel because he felt when he was at the top of being a babyface, he would flip to a heel and be that hot as a heel. No. Fans don't want to boo Becky Lynch right now. Why would they? And again, I said this on my week in review, that it seems as if they're taking the slow approach. And if they had her turn heel again at SummerSlam, which Becky Lynch seems to be doing as kind of a habitual thing, she turned heel on Charlotte Flair in 2017, 2018, whatever the heck it was, which ultimately turned her into the biggest babyface. And then she, quote, turns heel on this SummerSlam, which people are like, we don't want to see this. Why are you doing this? No, like, we want to love you. And if you're going to try to turn on us, we're going to be indifferent about it, and we're going to cheer you anyway, because you're not going to force us to try to hate you. This is a bad move by WWE. Bad. I feel bad for Bianca as well. That big, long run she had, very, very successful run. I enjoyed her run. I thought it could have gone much, much longer, many more months. Got cut short by a 27, 28 match, whatever, a second match, whatever the heck it was. And I feel like that did a disservice to her. All for what? Trying to turn her heel? It's bad. I mean, we'll eventually get, and we will get, the Bianca versus Becky long form match. And we saw it on SmackDown. Bianca earned the number one contendership. They didn't call it number one contendership because that's apparently not what we call it anymore. It's just a contenders match, which is bizarre. But I think we will get the match that we all wanted. And it's going to be very telling to see if Becky Lynch retains, and I think she will, how she retains. It's probably going to be pull the tights, behind the referee's back, something underhanded, and fans are going to be like, yeah, this sucks. Why are we doing this, WWE? Why are we doing this? This is not the right role for Becky, at least not in the short term. So thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the clarification. Let's get to our next caller.
Hey, this is Elia, first-time caller, long-time listener. I just finished the mailbag, and I was just going to say maybe the reason that Smackdown is getting all the superstars and is getting like way more big stars than Raw is because WWE can smell like a Friday Night Wars and like with AEW, sort of like the Monday Night Wars 20 years ago. So yeah, I was just thinking like maybe the reason that they're stacking the deck to have all the superstars on SmackDown is so that they can beat out the AEW Rampage rating. Have a great time and peace.
Hey, I think I heard Elijah or Elia, so it's one of the two. So my apologies. I couldn't decipher which one, so it's one of the two, I'm fairly sure. So thank you for being first time, long time. It's much appreciated. I'm glad we're getting some new voices on here. It's always a good thing. Not that I don't love my regulars, but certainly I love when we get the new people calling in and hearing what you guys think about what's going on. This is an interactive show. It's not about me. So, all right. So that's a good point to bring up. It's something that I feel foolish for not thinking about in the first place. I really do. I feel like an idiot. I'm thinking, why are they stacking the roster on SmackDown? USA is pissed, rightfully so. They got the big old shaft when it comes to massive returns, and they need help anyway. I mean, they needed help even if they got Becky and Brock to Monday Night Raw. We would still be sitting here going, SmackDown's still the better show. Raw creatively is a disaster. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that they have a 3-hour show to produce. That extra hour is absolutely the killer. We've said this many times. A lot of those shows have said this many times. Hell, Triple H has said it. So I think that's a big contributor. But even if they got those big stars, they would still be a mess. That said, now that you've really stacked the odds against Monday Night Raw, and looking at SmackDown, you're like, what are they doing? Right? It very well could be in response to AEW. I think it could be. I really do. When you look at when SmackDown airs, though, SmackDown airs 8 to 10. I believe Rampage starts at 10. Does it not? Am I wrong on that? I think Rampage starts at 10. So I don't know if it's really a Friday Night War, though, that they're trying to do in response to having a higher rating than Rampage, because if Rampage starts at 10, then it wouldn't matter. You would just have the WWE fans going over to Rampage, and there's nothing to really talk about here, because they aren't directly competing with one another in the same exact time slot on the same night. So I'm fairly sure it starts at 10 p.m. So, but I hear what you're saying, and it could very well still be a response to that. That, hey, you want to throw CM Punk out there? Here's Becky and here's Brock. Take that. Good point. Good point. So thanks so much. Feel free to call back. Let's keep the train rolling.
Oh, hey, Matt, it's Devin from Australia here. I sent you an email and then I forgot the other question I wanted to ask. And that was, with the beloved pay-per-view event of Crown Jewel coming back, did you miss it last year? I so missed it. It was one of the, no, I didn't miss it at all. It was one of the highlights of the year, not having it. But anyway, here we go again. We're getting it back. Yay. My question is, okay, so we've got a pandemic going on. We've got quarantine rules, 2 weeks of, well, that's what it's like here. You know, if you travel abroad or come back to Australia, you've got to quarantine for 2 weeks. So if we're getting a whole lot of wrestlers going across to Saudi to take part in this pay-per-view, are they going to be off for the next 2 weeks prior or possibly the 2 weeks before? So we could get a whole, like, chunk of time where they won't be performing. So I'm not sure if the quarantine rules over between America and Saudi will be different. But I just thought that, you know, if you are traveling, even though you're in a bubble, you still have to quarantine, which means you will be rendered unavailable to be on the next show, or Raw or SmackDown, or even the show before the Crown Jewel. Yeah, I'm just interested if you know, or if you considered that too. I'm just interested to see how that's going to play out. And I mean, if they just get to go on the road, go to Crown Jewel, come back and perform, I mean, that's going to put a massive controversy in this whole quarantine thing too, which is, sorry, that's a topic for another day and probably another podcast. But I just thought I'd ask the question. Thanks, mate. Yeah, bye.
Hey, Bevan, I know you've got another voicemail, and we'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to answer this question before your next one, which I presume is more of a wrestling storyline question. So that's a good question, a great observation to bring up that no one's talking about regarding quarantine rules. And first of all, let me say this about Australia. Man, I feel for you guys. I gotta say, I feel for you guys. It seems as if you guys are in like extreme lockdown. And from what I understand, the numbers over there of people actually being infected and dying are extremely low, and the government is just getting extremely power hungry, and people are protesting, and the reaction to the actual numbers isn't balanced, right? Like the government's doing super ultra lockdown, can't leave your house unless you have, you know, X, Y, and Z reasons, and it's just not justified with what, like one person dying or whatever. Maybe I'm exaggerating with the numbers, but it seems extremely low. And anyway, so that's what I've gathered from Australia. And yeah, that's what I've heard. It's nuts over there, but that's a good case to bring up and point to bring up regarding Saudi Arabia and how the quarantine works with when they come back and they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. That means 2 weeks of shows. What are they going to do? So here's what I did. While I was listening to your voicemail, I went to the CDC website, the Center for Disease Control here in the United States. That's really the one driving a lot of the policies that the governments are adopting. And the current recommendation from the CDC. Now, the CDC here, I know I'm talking to mostly United States listeners here. Most of our listeners are from the United States, so I'm probably only educating a small number of people here. But the CDC in the United States is not a governing body. They don't make laws. They don't have any real direct impact on laws or say other than they make recommendations. And then the government can either adopt or reject what their recommendations are and put laws and requirements into place. So anyway, the CDC here says that before you arrive in the United States, all air passengers coming to the United States, including U.S. citizens and fully vaccinated people, are required to have a negative COVID-19 test no more than 3 days before travel or documentation of recovery from COVID in the past 3 months before they board a flight to the United States. So if you're fully vaccinated, you just have to get a negative COVID-19 result before you arrive at the airport, and you're good. So that's that. After you travel, you have to get a test 3 to 5 days after, but that's for fully vaccinated people. So here's for not fully vaccinated, and I don't know what the internal WWE policy is. I don't know if WWE has mandated that their performers get it. I haven't heard. You would think that something like that would have come out. But here is what the non-fully vaccinated people are recommended to do per the CDC. So it says before you arrive in the United States, it says that they're required to have a COVID-19 negative test no more than 3 days before travel. And same thing for if you had COVID, it has to be in the past 3 months. So it still says you have to wear a mask, all that kind of stuff. It seems as if it's kind of the same. I thought it'd be a little different. Either way, it doesn't have a 14-day requirement for quarantine like it did at one point, during the pandemic. So I don't think that it's going to affect the shows as long as the performers don't all contract COVID while they're there and come home and all of a sudden you have half the roster testing positive for COVID, or some of them can't get on the plane because they've tested positive for COVID. So when they're there, they need to be super careful because otherwise they may be stuck there and won't be able to return to the United States. Oh, Lord. All right. Thanks, Bevan. Now let's get to part 2 of your voicemail.
Oh, hey, Matt, Bevan again. Sorry, I'm inundating you this week. One thing I picked up from Raw as well, and no one seems to have picked up on this too, was though we did have Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair, which I found entertaining, but I also loved your comments on it because I went back and watched it. And damn, man, damn. But where was Alexa Bliss? She was out there last week, which, presenting herself or whatever to Charlotte saying, hey, I'm here. She wasn't even there. So that's another storyline or start of a storyline that just seems to have been washed away. So I'm not sure. You never mentioned it in your Raw review, but I was wondering, I'm sure Alexa Bliss was on the previous week approaching Charlotte, or am I maybe just sleep deprived? Anyway, thanks again. See ya. Bye.
No, Bevan, you're not sleep deprived, although you and I both are. I mean, having newborns is, it's a trip. But I don't know how I missed that on Raw. I also didn't talk about Goldberg's quick interview, so I'll talk about that on the back end of this because I feel like I have to fill that. I know it's not your question, but as far as Alexa Bliss goes, yeah, man, she didn't show up, and apparently she was backstage. Alexa Bliss did say she was there. She was very much there, but they just told her she wasn't needed. And I don't know if they're dropping this story before it even really gets started, or they just didn't have anything for her this week, and they'll continue it next week. Maybe. I don't know. I doubt it because of what happened with Nia Jax. That could be a storyline continuing all the way till Extreme Rules. So I don't know. Maybe they just kind of pushed Alexa Bliss to the side for Nia Jax, of which we don't know why. But yeah, she just didn't show up. No one even talked about it. It's like it didn't happen. So it's bizarre. It's totally bizarre. And Bevan, I know you didn't ask me to, but again, I'm going to talk about Goldberg because I'm really angry I missed discussing this. On Raw, Goldberg said, I'm going to take the soul of Bobby Lashley. And he's not even coming after the championship. He wants his soul. So apparently Goldberg is channeling his inner Undertaker to go after the soul of Bobby Lashley for what he did to Gage, his son. Let me say this loud and clear one more time. Gage deserved it. The fool went in the ring with a guy 18 times his size and 36 times his strength. And he got exactly what he deserved, attacking Bobby Lashley from behind. Why are we supposed to boo this? Because he's much, much smaller than Bobby Lashley and he's only a teenager? Too bad. So sad. That's what happens. That's how you learn. The kid got exactly what he deserved. And Goldberg's playing the protective father. He says he's not even coming after the championship. I think that's a direct result of the fans booing Goldberg. And I think WWE thinks that if they take the championship out of the picture, that it'll subside some of the boos. I don't think it's going to. I think people are just flat out sick of seeing Goldberg, period. He does not put on good matches. He never has. He never really had, and that's not his shtick. He's a power guy that has very limited moves. And that's just what he is. That's his identity. So they can take the championship out of the picture. It's not going to take the boos out of the picture because I think the fans are going to send a loud and clear message that they are done with Goldberg. Get him the hell out of here. So, but apparently he's coming after the soul of Lashley. I want to see what that looks like. So, all right. Thank you, Bevan. Hope all is well over there. Stay well, and we will talk to you hopefully next week. Okay. Let's keep things going here. We're getting close to the end of the show, so let's keep it rolling.
Hey Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. I just finished Raw, and it was an okay show. Some ups and some downs. First of all, John Morrison is still not serious. Like, he was serious last week in that one little promo backstage, but he still has a dripstick. A stupid dripstick. And it kind of reminds me of Big E. Him and Big E both, like, are still stupid and not funny and not serious and just annoying, challenge-changing. And it's, like, it's not even a heel heat, it's a challenge-changing heat. It's really annoying. And Charlotte Flair got pinned by Nia Jax. Not happy about that. Drew McIntyre got a U.S. title shot. Fans are going to be booing him again soon. What else? RK Bro is good. I'm a little mad Nia Jax beat Charlotte Flair. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about Raw. My question's about SmackDown, actually. So I guess I was making the voice a little longer, I guess. But anyway, so if you saw SmackDown, I listened to your weekend review. I listened to it eventually. I listened to your weekend review last week, and on Friday, Naomi was on SmackDown. Naomi's on SmackDown now, and Sonya Deville very disrespectfully ignored her, which really annoyed me also. But anyway, Naomi's on SmackDown now. I've heard people saying a prediction, and I think it could be true. Do you think that she could join the Bloodline? I think it's possible. Also, I've heard rumor Daniel Bryan might debut at AEW All Out this weekend. I think that's possible too. But I have two predictions I think are going to happen. Eventually, Naomi's going to join the Bloodline and maybe win the SmackDown Women's title and turn Becky Babyface again. I don't know. Also, Daniel Bryan, I have a prediction for AEW All Out. If you don't know, there's a women's casino battle royal happening in it, and the winner gets a title shot against Britt Baker. I think they might get a surprise AJ Lee in it, and she might win it and challenge Britt Baker. And, yeah, that's it. My 3 minutes is running up, so I can't talk anymore. So, as always, thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.
Kyle, I love your idea about AJ Lee. How about that? That would be... People would pop big time for that. AJ Lee is one of the most underappreciated, I hate to say divas, but she was still during the Divas era. Women, I'll just say women, because she's a woman, not a diva. She's one of the most underappreciated women in WWE. She was the kind of the baby seed of the women's evolution movement. And I loved seeing her on a weekly basis. Yes, she's great to look at. She's extremely attractive. But on the microphone, she just compelled you. Not by her looks, okay? Just by her cadence, by the it factor. She had it. And she was really good in the ring. So I think AJ Lee returning to wrestling, that would be awesome. I mean, crazy is her superpower, right? So I think she could do it. I think she certainly could do it, and people would love it. And having CM Punk and AJ Lee, imagine them as a tag team just for like a match or two. People would cry. You would see grown men once again crying. Angels would come down from the heavens and weep. It would be so much fun to see. emotional. Even if it's for a one-off, right? And she could win the Battle Royal in AEW, certainly. But even if it's just for a one-off, to have that moment with AJ Lee and CM Punk, Phil Brooks, would be awesome. It'd be freaking awesome. So now you got me excited. Damn it, Kyle. You got the bar has now been raised by your comments. You need to stop doing that. Your comments too about Nia Jax joining the Bloodline. Yeah, I've been trying to make that case, and I didn't even come up with the idea. So one of my brilliant co-hosts did, but I would love it. It would be awesome. And I dislike Nia as it is, so having her in the Bloodline would be great. The problem is, I don't know if WWE trusts her enough to put her in a much more prominent position if she is a risk of injuring other stars. And she has a bad history, and she showed once again how careless she could be on Monday night. And I'm not talking about the real shots that she hit Charlotte with. I'm talking about the belly-to-back suplex specifically. That's careless. That's not, I'm just trying to, be physical. That's careless. And that's not something you can do in the ring. So while I agree, it would make sense storyline-wise, family-wise, it's a story right there for the taking. I don't know if WWE would do that given her really high risk of injuring other stars. I mean, it's just a fact. It's a fact. So lastly, your comments about John Morrison. Please don't give WWE ideas about putting Big E and Morrison together. Please. I don't need it. I don't need it. But yeah, you're right. John Morrison still has the dripstick. It's as if they don't know what else to do with his identity. He's just everything all wet, and they come up with different adjectives for the word wet and try to work them into every sentence that he has creatively, and some of them are creative, but good God almighty, do they need him to at least be serious for a minute? Please. Quoting Lance Storm here. So, all right. Thanks so much, Kyle. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for getting me excited. And let's get to our final voicemail here. It's actually 2 voicemails from Justin from Maryland. So let's see what Justin has to say this week.
Hey, man, this is Justin from Maryland. I just wanted to give my thoughts on a couple of things that happened. First, I'm actually surprised that they announced the Universal title for SmackDown. I thought that they would maybe wait until Extreme Rules. So I think what's going to happen is there'll probably be a DQ or a false finish, probably interference between the Usos. So I think that they'll string that match all the way until Extreme Rules. Of course, Reigns going to win. Then probably Lesnar will probably return, and then we can set up that match at Crown Jewel. I still think Reigns would beat Lesnar. I don't think Lesnar needs the title. Plus, he's a part-timer, so it wouldn't even make sense for him to come back. Plus, I mean, I'm not sure if you saw his new contract, but he has up to 8 matches over the next year and a half. So I still don't think he'll win the belt. But definitely, just give Reigns him, just beat another legend. So that's what I think about SmackDown. Raw was okay. I enjoyed that triple threat for the U.S. title. I'm surprised Drew took the pinfall. I thought that maybe Sheamus would take the pinfall, to protect Drew, but they're trying to make Damian Priest the star. So where do you think that they're going? I think maybe they should just go ahead and do Priest against Lashley for the title, and then have Goldberg come back and cause a DQ finish so we can get that over with at Crown Jewel. I think RK Bro will probably go against AJ Styles and Omos one more time, and then they'll move on to new challengers. And that's it, man. I think my time is up, so I'll talk to you later. Hey, man, it's Justin again. One more thing. Where do you think they're going to go with Edge and Seth Rollins moving forward? Because in their promos, they both mentioned the Universal title. So I think maybe they could also insert themselves this Friday. I'm sure we'll learn more when SmackDown comes, like what direction they're going. But maybe maybe one of them or both could have caused a DQ and try to insert themselves into the match, because it's not going to be Lesnar at Extreme Rules. So it's either going to be Reigns against Finn Balor one-on-one, or maybe Edge and Rollins will try to insert themselves because they both mentioned the Universal title. But I think that they should go ahead and just have one more match. I've been hearing reports that Edge might be moving to Raw soon, which makes sense. I don't think he has that much to do on SmackDown anymore, really, after Rollins. So I think he should definitely move to Raw, but I want to see him and Rollins go at it one more time, and I need to see Rollins pick up one of those big wins. He really hasn't won a big match in a long time. So, and then it seems like his character is changing. He seemed happy, I guess, but it was kind of creepy and weird. So I'm guessing Seth is going to go into another level of his character. So I guess we'll find that out. But that's it, man. I just had something else to say. So I'll talk to you next time.
Hey, Justin, so many great points. I mean, I could talk about your points for a half hour, of which I won't, I promise. Thank you so much, though. Always great to hear you, and no better way to close out the show. All right. Let's start at your top point here. You talked about a DQ finish for the Universal Championship on SmackDown. That certainly could happen. Yeah, definitely. And actually, I would expect it to happen. If anybody believes that Roman Reigns is losing the championship on a random SmackDown, you are sadly mistaken. I don't think you believe that. I don't think almost anybody believes that. And that just tells you, like you said, it leads to the match at Extreme Rules. Yes. Certainly, and you could have Brock Lesnar interfere there, lay out Roman Reigns, and it leads to Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. That's probably where we're going. I agree with you. But Lesnar still loses. I'm with you there too. Lesnar, as much of a beast as he is, he's an attraction at this point. He's a part-timer, like you said. He's a guy that kind of comes and goes. And from what I understand, he has a contract for the next year and a half. So that is significant. And it's long enough where you could actually make a case that Brock Lesnar could capture the championship and be there for a significant amount of time. And, you know, there is a case to be made there. Certainly. But I don't know if Lesnar's the one to do it. But when you look around the roster, who is the one to do it? Right? Like, who is the guy to take the belt off Roman? He's been champion for over a year now. Roman Reigns has been a heel for officially over a year now. So I think there is a somewhat significant case actually to be made for Lesnar to win, but more of a stronger case to be made for him not winning the championship. Priest versus Lashley for the title. I wouldn't mind that. You know, you do occasionally from time to time see the mid-card champion versus the top champion face off, and it's a champion versus champion match, and the winner gets both belts. You know, I've seen that from time to time. This would be a good time to do it. I think it'd be a fresh matchup. It would also give Damian Priest even more spotlight, which they really seem to be focusing on him lately. Goldberg could interfere, and then they get that over with, but the problem is it's not going to happen. Like, Goldberg is here to stay for a little while, unfortunately. And I don't care if he's coming for Bobby Lashley's soul or the championship. I don't want Goldberg coming for anything other than a Hall of Fame speech and Goodnight the Lights. That's it. That's all I want Goldberg here for. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's going to be Goldberg versus Lashley. Dare I say it, Extreme Rules, or do they go all the way to the Saudi Arabia? One of the two. I don't know if Priest and Lashley would be a SummerSlam, a Extreme Rules main event in the eyes of Vince, but we'll see. I like your idea. Edge and Seth moving forward. I think based on the promo that I saw this week, it appeared that they're both moving on. More Edge than Seth. Seth said that, I'm glad you taught me something, Edge. I need to be more like you. And he had that awful smile. Seth has a bad smile, by the way. On an offshoot here, Seth's smile is bad. Like, I don't mean his teeth are deformed or, anything like that. Like, his smile is just not endearing. Like, you see him smile and you want to punch his face. And it's just his natural smile, which I think is part of why it never worked with him as a babyface. But I think Seth and Edge, if they have another match, I'm all here for it. I want Seth and Edge part 2. They had such a good match as expected at the pay-per-view at SummerSlam that I would love to see them in part 2. And I was surprised when they seemingly were going their separate ways on SmackDown, but I'm fine with them having one more time. And then Edge goes to Raw, which I think would be a perfect fit for Edge right now. I would love it. And you said that, Rollins hasn't gotten a big victory. Well, he kind of did. I mean, he beat Cesaro in a blow-off match when we all thought Cesaro was going to win. I know Cesaro's not Roman Reigns. He's not Edge. But Cesaro was on the rise, challenging Roman Reigns for the championship not too long before that. And then Seth comes in and ends up winning the program against Cesaro. So Seth has had some victories. Edge needed it more, though. When's the last time Edge had a big victory? Both guys needed it, but I think Edge needed it a little bit more. So thank you so much, Justin, for your just so many good comments and questions. And I look forward to hearing you again next week. And all of our callers, if you want to join in, please do. 518-952-0247 is the number. You have 3 minutes to talk, although I do stack the voicemails. Some people just send multiple voicemails. And I'm a nice guy, so I just kind of stitch the two together. But typically, it's a 3 minute and then you're cut off deal. But please call. And you also have an email at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And yes, Mr. DJ Kuzmo is taking a break this week. He's enjoying himself, taking a little bit of a vacay. So, I didn't have his normal essay of an email to read. I mean that complimentarily. And I didn't have his voicemails. So we'll be looking forward to hearing Mr. DJ Kuzmo come back in the coming weeks. And we wish you a very relaxing vacation, my friend. I get it. We all need one. We all need one with this crazy world. So thank you, everybody, for calling in, everybody for taking the time to email. I know everyone's busy as hell. So we're all here to talk about the thing that doesn't really matter, right? In real life, which is professional wrestling. We're playing in the sandbox here, as they say. And I know that your time is precious. So thank you, everybody. Please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you have a moment. And consider subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts for a completely ad-free experience with the little ad-free button there on Apple. And also on Patreon. For $1, everything's ad-free. All right, everybody, thank you so much. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.